What if the person you trusted most, the one who kissed your forehead in the morning and whispered "I love you" at night, was waiting for the perfect moment to kill you? What if every soft touch, every cup of coffee, was part of a plan? In a world where loyalty is currency and deception wears a wedding ring, how do you tell the difference between love and slow-brewed betrayal? She thought she was building a life. Turns out, she was walking straight into a trap. Stay close. The truth is poison, and someone's about to swallow it. To the world, Ivy Wilder had everything. 30, brilliant, and effortlessly poised, she was the face behind Wilder Creative, one of the fastest-growing marketing empires in the country. Magazine covers called her a visionary. Billion-dollar brands lined up for her touch. And standing beside her at every red carpet, every gala, every photo op, was Knox Wilder, her perfect husband. He was charming in all the right ways, thoughtful, soft-spoken, the kind of man who kissed her temple before board meetings and left notes in her suitcase on business trips. They were the definition of power couple. The envy of everyone who didn't know better. But Ivy had learned to look past the gloss. She had learned to listen to silence. To watch his eyes more than his mouth. Especially now. Especially here, at the Wilder family's monthly breakfast. The air in Vanessa Wilder's sun-drenched kitchen was thick with the scent of cinnamon and something colder beneath it, performance. Smiles too wide. Laughter too crisp. Every plate placed with precision, every toast rehearsed. Vanessa chattered as she poured mimosas, her laughter grating against the porcelain clink of silverware. Knox sat beside Ivy, hand resting lightly on hers, warm, steady, reassuring. Too steady. Then came the coffee. "For you, babe," Knox said, sliding a steaming cup in front of her. "Made it just the way you like." Ivy smiled sweetly. Lifted the cup. But before it reached her lips, her nose caught it, that faint, metallic trace. Faint, but unmistakable. Coppery. Sharp. The same scent that haunted the edge of every hospital memory she couldn't quite explain. She paused. Just for a second. Then, as if nothing was wrong, she took a sip. And within seconds, she started to tremble. Her fingers twitched. Her breathing hitched. The room spun slightly, just enough to send her swaying. "Ivy." Knox's voice cut through the air. She didn't answer. She collapsed forward, the cup clattering to the floor. Gasps filled the room. Chairs scraped. Chaos bloomed. Knox dropped to her side, voice tight with alarm. "Call someone. Something's wrong, she's not breathing right." Vanessa's face went pale. What the hell is happening? This wasn't supposed to happen this fast. "Shut up," Knox hissed, panic flashing across his face. She wasn't supposed to die here. Vanessa backed away, shaking. "You said it would only weaken her. Just enough to miss that meeting with Harrington, not kill her." But Ivy heard everything. Lying still, her eyes fluttered just enough to fake unconsciousness. The tiny device sewn into her dress recorded every frantic word, every crack in their voices. They thought they had won. But this time, she was the one setting the trap. Ivy's body lay limp across the dining table, her cheek pressed against the edge of a linen napkin, her breath shallow, measured, controlled. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears, not from poison, but from the rush of adrenaline coursing through her like fire. Her fingers, curled just beneath the tablecloth, hovered over the micro recorder stitched into her sleeve. It was all being captured. Every word. Every slip. "What the hell is happening?" Knox hissed, panic slicing through his voice. He knelt beside her, shaking her shoulder roughly. "This can't be right, it's too fast." The dosage shouldn't have worked this quickly. Vanessa stood frozen, her mimosa glass trembling in her hand, eyes wide with horror. You said it would just slow her down, Knox. Just enough to make her miss the Harrington meeting, not? Her voice trailed off as she stared at Ivy's still body. The color drained from her face. You promised me no one would get hurt. Knox's tone shifted from panic to fury, low and sharp. Well, maybe you should have read the fine print. She had to disappear, Vanessa. Otherwise, we'd never get control of Wilder Industries. You want your cut, or not? You said, Vanessa's voice cracked. You said she'd be fine in a few hours. That she just needed to stay out of the way. You never said you were going to kill her. Knox finished, rising slowly, his face now hard as stone. Don't act so innocent. You helped. You knew exactly what was in that coffee. I thought it was something mild. A sedative or something temporary. Vanessa whispered, horrified. This wasn't the deal, Knox. You lied to me. You're just collateral, he snapped. You wanted a share of the company. You got your hands dirty. Welcome to the game. The room fell into a tense, suffocating silence. And in that silence, a soft click. Barely audible. Ivy's eyes fluttered open. Knox staggered back. What the? Vanessa gasped, hand flying to her mouth. She's awake. Ivy sat up slowly, her hands steady, her breath calm. She looked at them both, her gaze cold as polished steel. You really should have read my fine print too, she said. From her sleeve, she slid out the tiny recorder and pressed play. Knox's voice echoed through the room. She had to disappear, Vanessa. Otherwise, we'd never get control of Wilder Industries. Vanessa's knees buckled. Knox took a step forward, reaching, Ivy, listen. She stood, unflinching. No. You listen. Every word, every threat, every lie, you handed it to me on a silver platter. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It was the sound of a woman who had taken back control. For a moment, no one breathed. Knox stared at Ivy as if she'd risen from the dead. Vanessa gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white, lips parted in disbelief. Ivy stood with a kind of poise that didn't belong to someone who'd just collapsed minutes earlier. Calm. Controlled. Dangerous. So this is what I was to you, she said slowly, her voice cutting through the room like ice. A pawn in a corporate fairy tale. The loving wife. The perfect face to parade while you sharpened the knife behind my back. You, Knox stammered, his mask slipping. You were faking. This entire time. Ivy tilted her head slightly. Surprised, darling. Funny. That's exactly how I felt the first time. I ended up in the ER and you told me it was stress. Knox took a step back. She reached into her purse and pulled out a second recorder. This time, she didn't say a word, she just pressed play. She had to disappear, Vanessa. Otherwise, we'd never get control of Wilder Industries. His voice echoed again, cold and damning. Vanessa's eyes widened. Ivy. I didn't know he meant to kill you. I swear to God. I thought he just wanted to sideline you. I never. Ivy turned to her, eyes steady. You didn't ask questions. You just helped him poison me. Vanessa shook her head, stepping back like the truth might physically burn her. But Ivy wasn't finished. She held up the coffee cup, sealed in a clear evidence bag. After breakfast, I had this tested at the hospital. She paused, letting the weight of her next words hang in the air. The toxins match the exact same compound found in my bloodstream during my last 3 episodes. Same pattern. Same dosage design. Only this time, someone got greedy and increased the levels. Her gaze locked on Knox. You've been poisoning me for years, haven't you? Little by little. Slowly enough to go unnoticed. Weak enough to be dismissed. Until now. Knox said nothing. He didn't have to. The silence said it all. You wanted me gone, Ivy continued, her voice low. You wanted the company. The money. The legacy. You married me because Harrington told you to. And you stayed just long enough to make sure when I died suddenly, you'd inherit everything. Knox's jaw clenched. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. There was no rage in her voice. No hysteria. Just precision. Clarity. Control. The illusion had shattered. And all that remained was the truth. Knox Wilder never loved her. He never intended to. The moment Ivy walked out of Vanessa's house, the FBI was already waiting. Parked just down the street in an unmarked black sedan, Agent Olivia Park closed the laptop on her lap and stepped out with calm, deliberate precision. Her badge glinted beneath her coat, her expression unreadable, sharp eyes trained on Ivy like a hawk that had finally spotted its opening. Ivy Wilder. Ivy froze. Her heart kicked once, hard. You've been tracking him, Ivy said before Olivia could even explain. The agent's lips curved into the barest trace of a smile. Not just him. We've been following Leonard Harrington for the past 2 years. Embezzlement. Corporate sabotage. But this is the first time we've had murder for inheritance on the table. Ivy's breath caught. Wait. You're saying Knox wasn't acting alone? Olivia nodded. He's not the mastermind. He's just another puppet. A well-groomed one, but still a puppet. Harrington recruited him 5 years ago. Paid off his debt, propped up his failing ventures, and gave him one assignment: marry you. Get close. Get control. And when that failed, the weight of the truth landed with a sickening thud. He gave him permission to remove you entirely. Ivy felt her knees weaken. And I was just a target in a hostile takeover. You were the target. Later that night, Vanessa sat alone in her apartment, scrolling through old texts Knox had sent her. Compliments. Promises. Carefully planted seeds of loyalty. She remembered how easily she had believed he was just trying to protect the company from Ivy's reckless ambition. How he made her feel important. Necessary. Now she knew better. Now she had seen his eyes when Ivy dropped the bombshell, cold, empty, and not once looking at her. Just before midnight, an anonymous email arrived in Ivy's inbox. Subject: proof. Attached: a series of photographs. Knox. With a woman. Intimate. Smiling. But it wasn't the affair that made Ivy's blood turn to ice. It was who the woman was. Jessica Lawn. Harrington's head of strategic planning. Known in the industry for playing both sides of any deal. And loyal only to Leonard. Knox wasn't just planning to kill Ivy. He was planning to replace her. To marry again. To install a new Wilder heiress. And with Ivy gone, no one would question his rise to power. Vanessa saw the photos too. She sank into the couch, her voice shaking as she whispered to no one, "He played me. I was never part of the plan. Just another piece on his board." By morning, Ivy was no longer a victim. She was a weapon. And she was done waiting. "I want in," she told Agent Olivia Park. "Whatever you're planning, I'm not just handing this to the FBI. I'm going to help bring them down." Every last one of them. Olivia arched a brow but nodded. Then let's start with Vanessa. Vanessa hadn't slept. The weight of betrayal, the echo of Ivy's cold eyes, the photographs, Knox and Jessica wrapped in a lie deeper than anything she had ever imagined, all of it circled her like vultures. When Olivia Park knocked on her door, Vanessa didn't resist. You have two options, Olivia said calmly. Keep defending him and go down for conspiracy to commit murder. Or tell the truth and help take them both down. Vanessa stared at the floor, voice hollow. You don't know what he made me believe. Then prove you're not the same as him. With Vanessa now cooperating, things moved fast. Search warrants. Forensic techs. Surveillance orders. That evening, the police stormed Knox Wilder's lakeside estate. He wasn't home. He was out at a charity gala, giving a speech about integrity in business. Back at his house, detectives tore through drawers, safes, floorboards, until they found it. A locked cabinet hidden behind a false panel in his office. Inside, vials of clear liquid with faded labels. Lab reports. Medical receipts under fake names. And a black notebook filled with Knox's neat handwriting, dosage tracking, projected health declines, timelines. It wasn't just evidence. It was a blueprint for murder. Meanwhile, the news around Leonard Harrington's empire began to tighten. Vanessa's statement had included names, dates, off-the-record meetings, and most importantly, the money trail. Bank statements revealed offshore accounts wired directly to Knox's shell companies. Payments disguised as consulting fees. Contributions to shell charities tied back to Harrington Enterprises. When Olivia's team raided Harrington's private office, they found more than they expected. Confidential files, showing strategic sabotage plans for 3 other major competitors. Payments to journalists for character assassinations. Even a burner phone with encrypted texts between Harrington and a list of names too powerful to ignore. Harrington's lawyers tried to bury the headlines. But Ivy went public first. At a press conference in front of Wilder Industries headquarters, she stood with Olivia Park and said just one sentence. What they tried to destroy only made me stronger. The war had begun. But this time, Ivy was holding the detonator. The courthouse was a fortress of cold marble and tighter security than a presidential summit. Reporters swarmed the steps. Cameras clicked like gunfire. The world had been watching for weeks, but today, the gloves came off. 2 of the most powerful men in the industry stood trial. Knox Wilder. Leonard Harrington. One, the perfect husband turned predator. The other, the billionaire puppet master no one thought could bleed. They sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, no longer allies. Just 2 snakes coiled at opposite corners, waiting to see who would strike first. Your Honor, Knox's attorney began, my client was manipulated. Coerced. Mr. Harrington orchestrated everything. My client was merely following orders under financial duress. Knox sat stiff, expression perfectly rehearsed in remorse. I never meant for anyone to get hurt, he said with a practiced tremble in his voice. I loved my wife. Harrington pressured me into the marriage. Into all of it. But Ivy was already standing. She walked to the front of the courtroom, held up the small recorder, and pressed play. Once again, Knox's voice filled the silence. She had to disappear, Vanessa. Otherwise, we'd never get control of Wilder Industries. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Ivy looked directly at him. You didn't love me, she said, her voice steady. You poisoned me. Lied to me. And plotted my death. Don't insult us with your performance. Then came Vanessa. Her hands trembled as she took the stand, but her voice, when it finally came, cut through like truth finally unleashed. Knox is the one who pulled the strings. He used me. Convinced me Ivy was the enemy. But everything he said was manipulation. I see that now. Knox's jaw clenched. His mask cracked, just a little. Then Harrington's lawyers took their turn. Mr. Harrington is not a criminal. He's a businessman. He invested in Wilder Industries and offered advice, nothing more. Advice like strategic marriage and corporate assassination. Olivia Park countered coldly from the prosecution table. The courtroom turned cold as the FBI rolled out the financial evidence. Transactions. Encrypted messages. Dozens of shell companies tracing back to Harrington's offshore empire. Fraud. Manipulation. Coercion. Illegal surveillance. It was a house of cards. And it was collapsing. But just when it seemed the noose was fully tightened, another name surfaced. In a sealed folder labeled Phase 2 Authorization, C. Devlin, buried in Harrington's hard drive, the FBI discovered communications not from Knox. Not from Leonard. But from someone higher. Smarter. Untouched. Someone pulling the strings above them both. Olivia Park's eyes narrowed as she whispered to Ivy, "This isn't over." Because the final twist was now on the table. Leonard Harrington was never the king. He was just another pawn. And the true enemy. Still out there. Watching. The verdict came down in a courtroom so silent, even the rustle of papers felt deafening. On the charge of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit homicide, and corporate fraud, we find the defendant, Knox Wilder, guilty. Knox didn't blink. Didn't flinch. He sat motionless as the judge delivered the sentence. 25 years in federal prison. No parole for the first 18. He turned once, just once, to look at Ivy. But she didn't meet his eyes. There was nothing left to say. Vanessa sat, with her head bowed as her own fate was read. For aiding and abetting, obstruction of justice, and willful negligence. She swallowed hard. The court sentences you to 5 years in prison, with eligibility for parole in 3, based on your full cooperation with the FBI and willingness to testify. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. Not from the punishment. From the shame. From finally understanding the role she played in something so poisonous. From knowing she'd never get the chance to say "I'm sorry" in a way that would matter. Leonard Harrington's sentence was the longest of all. For financial conspiracy, market manipulation, corporate espionage, and intent to commit harm through proxy. Mr. Harrington, you are hereby sentenced to 30 years in a maximum security facility. He erupted in court, pounding the table as if the wood could absorb his disbelief. You can't do this. I'm not the monster here. I'm a strategist. A visionary. I built an empire. You destroyed lives, Olivia Park answered from across the courtroom, cold and unshaken. And now you get to watch yours rot from the inside. As the gavel came down, Ivy exhaled the weight of years she hadn't even realized she was carrying. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't vengeance. It was closure. And yet, as the court emptied and the press swarmed, her mind remained haunted by one name. C. Devlin. A ghost still hiding in the shadows. Watching. Waiting. The ballroom was bathed in light. Champagne glasses clinked softly in the background. Velvet curtains framed the stage. Every seat was taken, CEOs, senators, journalists, victims, survivors. The air held something sacred. Something sharp. And at the center of it all stood Ivy Wilder. In a tailored black dress, spine straight, eyes unwavering, she approached the podium. Applause echoed. Then silence. She took a breath, then spoke, not with vengeance, but with calm, terrifying clarity. Sometimes, she began, the most dangerous enemy isn't the one who threatens you. She paused, letting every eye fall deeper into her words. It's the one who kisses you goodnight. A beat. It's the one you trust. The audience didn't move. A camera panned across the room and cut to a live feed, 2 prison inmates watching from separate TV screens in 2 separate cells. Knox Wilder. Leonard Harrington. Both in jumpsuits. Both pale. Both staring at Ivy's face, as if it might burn through the glass. They weren't watching a victory speech. They were watching the empire they tried to steal rise again, stronger, unbreakable, hers. Backstage, Agent Olivia Park stepped away from the crowd as a junior agent approached, holding a manila envelope. "This just came in," he said, voice tense. Olivia took the folder. Slipped on gloves. She opened it. Inside, a black card with only one symbol, a serpent twisted into the shape of an eye. And a single typed message. "See, Devlin has authorized Phase 3. Target profile, OP." Olivia's breath hitched, just enough for a flicker of fear to flash behind her steady eyes. She turned her gaze back toward the stage. Toward Ivy. Toward what was coming. The screen faded to black. And in the darkness, a voice whispered, "This is just the beginning."